Hello, my name is Ben,
And my name's Josh.
and welcome back to FPL Graduates, and welcome back to another transfer targets video. We're going to be going through all the transfer targets that you need to consider for game week 23.
So first up on our list is going to be Max Kilman from Wolves. Obviously, Wolves have got that double game week in game week 25 that got announced this week. Fulham and Liverpool, both away fixtures there. Liverpool probably not even a red fixture, really, after they've just beat them 3-0 last weekend. So a decent run of fixtures for Wolves. Ben, you're the one who instigated getting Max Kilman on the list. So do you want to speak a bit more about him?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they've got the blank game week. They've got a game, so I do think he's going to be a good option going forwards. Wolves are getting better defensively week on week under Lopetegui, and the fixtures don't look too bad in the short term either. So, you know what? I think it's not a bad shout to go for a Wolves defender, especially since they're so cut price at the moment. Next up, we have got Eddie Nketiah. Now, this guy is a guy that I'm looking to potentially bring into my team this week. His underlying statistics are great, and he's providing all the goal threat and hogging all of the big chances at Arsenal at the moment. Obviously, he's not got the most starts this season, but he's obviously come in after Jesus got injured. And with the fixtures coming up as well, they're looking pretty tasty. We've got a couple of double game weeks in there as well. So, yeah, we're looking forward to it. As you can see, sort of Brentford, Man City, it's a decent double game week. And then the Leicester away, Everton at home, 25. That is the one that I think a lot of people are going to make rank rises massively from these Arsenal assets.
Next up is Riyad Mahrez. Obviously, Man City, again, are similar to Arsenal. They double this week and do have a decent fixture in game week 25 when those Newcastle and United assets blank. So, 7.7 million. Riyad Mahrez took off just before 60 minutes against Spurs, which wasn't ideal. But obviously, he had that shot that went just off the bar. I think if that goes in, everyone is looking towards Riyad Mahrez as an absolute must-have this week. I think for me personally, I don't know what Ben thinks, but he's been the best midfielder from Manchester City to own in recent weeks. Obviously, that reverse fixture against Tottenham at home at the Etihad, he was unbelievable, unplayable in that fixture. And I think, he's probably the most nailed for me if you're choosing a midfielder that's not De Bruyne.
Yeah, we're all always aware that, with Riyad Mahrez and any Manchester City midfielder, really, that they could become in or out of favour very, very quickly under Pep Guardiola. His return seemed to be quite consistent over recent weeks and was unlucky not to get a return against Spurs, like Josh alluded to there. And with the fixtures coming up as well, with the double in 23 and a couple of nice fixtures after that, I think people are going to be trying to get these Manchester City assets right. And if you get it right with Mahrez, you're going to have some hefty returns. But just be aware that, you're going to have a potential exit plan, an exit strategy, just in case he seems to get dropped. All right, so next up is a really interesting one. It's Mitoma from Brighton, arguably the most informed player in the league right now, with a blank in game week 25. Now, in my opinion, this would be a luxury transfer this week. If you're looking sort of low on the players that are blanking in 25 and you can afford to maybe transfer him in and out or transfer him in and bench him in 25, I'd definitely look at Mitoma as your midfield enabler. A couple of decent fixtures before their blank and a couple of decent fixtures after their blank as well. Here's the main man of the moment at Brighton.
Yeah, Brian scores so many goals, and he's been at the heart of that, as Ben's alluded to. I think, agreeing with Ben, if you're on a wild card, it's probably the only situation that I'd bring him in right now, unless you have literally no United and no Newcastle assets. But, as United doubled this week, you'd probably at least doubled up on those guys. So it's going to be a really tricky one to try and keep. But for me, I'll be looking at him after that 25 blank. Next up is another Manchester City asset, and it's Manuel Akanji, 5.0 million. One of the cheaper options in that defence, and probably one of the most nailed options in that defence. I've had him for quite a while now. The only issue is with Manchester City right now is they're not keeping too many clean sheets. I think they've only kept 2 in their last 9 fixtures. It's very unlike Manchester City. What's your thoughts on Akanji and on that Man City defence in general, Ben?
I mean, the underlying defensive statistics have deteriorated slightly over the last few weeks, but let's not get away from the fact that they're still an elite defense. Yes, they've lost to Cancelo, but it almost seems to be a rebuilding job in their defense right now. And at any given moment, that could really click into gear. And someone like a Kanji could go on a run of getting quite a few clean sheets in a row. So for me, I'm I'm not saying it's a must transfer in. I don't think it's a must have to have 3 Manchester City players for next game week. But if you've got one of the Manchester City defenders like a Kanji, it's definitely worth a keep because the double in 23 and the nice fixtures until game week 26, it's sort of worth keeping them in mind and in your team, and they're cheap enough as well for the risk associated. Okay, so next up, we got another Arsenal player and another Arsenal player in really good form. It's Martin Odegaard. And like we say with these Arsenal assets, you're going to have 3 of these players come the game week 23 deadline. That's an absolute must. And Odegaard is producing some of the best goal involvement statistics out of all of the players. He's chipping in with goals, he's chipping in with assists, and he's getting sort of the best of both worlds, which is kind of what we saw with Bruno Fernandes in years gone by, where he's chipping in with goals and assists left, right, and centre. And Odegaard's fixtures lend him very well to being worth that £7 million price tag.
Yeah, for me, it's an interesting one because I think I prefer Bukayo Saka a little bit more just because he's on those penalties. He's got that real attacking threat coming in from the right. I think if you don't have Martinelli or Saka, and then that double up of Odegaard and Saka would be my preference. But I think a lot of us will have Martinelli still. I don't think Martinelli's a sell necessarily. I know a lot of people are worried because of Trossard coming in, but I don't see him necessarily being dropped straight away. And especially considering that I think he's still playing well. I don't think he's playing poorly. He's not been picking up the returns like we've seen in at the start of the season, but I think he is still there, still thereabouts. He will pick up some returns going forward. So I'm just not sure if I would personally do that Martinelli to Odegaard move that a lot of people have been discussing this week.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree. I mean, both of us do have Martinelli. So it might be a little bit of bias there towards that. But in our situation, I'm quite happy keeping someone like Martinelli. I think what you've got to do, you got to pick one and you just got to stick with it because each of these players will have spells in a season where they're getting returns, and it's really difficult to sort of pick between everyone who is going to be that guy that's going to get the most points in any given game week. Okay, so that rounds up our transfer targets for this week. Let us know what you think about each of those players. Are there some players that we potentially missed out? Let us know who you're transferring in this week.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one for me. I think I'll be looking towards that Arsenal attacker to finish the trio up. Maybe Bukayo Saka, maybe Eddie Nketiah. I'm yet to decide. But yeah, like Ben said, let us know who you're bringing in the comments below.
Yeah, and as usual, if you like the video, remember to give it a big old thumbs up and follow us on all of our socials. They'll be linked in the description. And as always, I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
And we'll see you guys
Later. Have a good game week, everyone.